With nearly 30 million people quitting their jobs between April and November in 2021, many leaders, companies, industries, just humans have been asking the question of why. Why is this happening? Why are so many people just up and quitting their jobs? On today's podcast, we're diving into one of the elements that is within our control as leaders and cultures as we deal with this great resignation and everything that's happening that's out of our control. Employees are asking the questions about their own lives. What is it they want for their life? What do they desire? What's their purpose? One of the elements that's within our control is retaining talent. What can we do to help retain talent on our teams, the people that we already have? Welcome back to The Thermostat with Jason Barger. If you're currently on a commute, a walk, or just a micro break in your day, glad you're making time to step back, to think, and to reflect on the next steps on your journey. I've never been more convinced the best leaders and team cultures in the world are the ones that make time to step back, breathe in good oxygen, and calibrate their thermostat. I hope today's conversation leaves you feeling grounded and inspired. Now let's dive into today's topic to engage our minds and hearts in order to authentically lead and create compelling cultures wherever we are in the world. Hey everyone, it's Jason, and welcome back to the Thermostat Podcast. Season 6 is off and running. We are well over 100 episodes, and again, continue to be great excitement and energy and growth to the podcast. So thank you to everybody out there who continues to show up and listen. If you are somebody who's new to the podcast, welcome. So glad you're here. If you are one of the OGs that's been with us from the very beginning, welcome back. So glad you are with us along the way. As always, I want this to continue to be a place and a space for you to step back, for you to think, for you to be filled with some positive thoughts that add value to you, your own leadership journey, and certainly the culture that you are creating and are part of in your life and work. So I'm more convinced of this than ever, and certainly the series that we're in right now points to this, but authentic leadership is needed, and creating compelling cultures is needed more than ever. And certainly we're going to be talking about that all this season. And also, I just want to say thank you to everybody out there who takes a moment to rate the podcast, 5 stars, of course. If you'll do that, thank you to anyone who takes the time to do that, because that's the way that the algorithms, value this, and certainly that helps in all ways. Whether we like it or not, it does. So everybody that takes a minute to rate 5 stars, thank you, thank you, thank you. To leave a nice review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. So leave your own comments and your own thoughts is really, really helpful. And anybody who helps shares the links on social media or shares it with the people in your life and work, all those ways are the ways in which this amplifies further into the world. And so I'm grateful for everybody that takes the time to do that. We are in the midst of a 4-part series, if you will, on this podcast related to the Great Resignation. And each episode is dedicated to a different element that is of the things that are within our control as leaders and organizations try to wrestle with this whole concept of the Great Resignation. The Great Resignation, as you may remember, is referring to the 24 million people that quit their jobs from April to September in 2021, and then another 4.5 million just in November. So nearly 30 million people that up and quit their jobs towards the end of 2021. So we're talking about all those things that are within our control, even in the midst of this environment. So today, on today's podcast, we're diving into one of the elements that is within our control as leaders and cultures as we deal with this great resignation and everything that's happening that's out of our control. One of the elements that's within our control is retaining talent. And the reality is that the transfer portal that is being talked about so much in sports right now, it isn't just for sports. So what can we do to help retain talent on our teams, the people that we already have? That's what we're going to be talking about on today's podcast. But let's take a break. Let's take a quick pause, and we'll be right back. Many teams and organizations right now are realizing that they need to do both. They need to engage the minds and hearts of their people in person, where everyone in the room can experience the energy of congregating together and find clarity for the road ahead. And they also need to continue to find ways to engage the minds and hearts of their people virtually, with those who are working remotely or at a distance. So, if you are in the process of planning your next team meeting, company all-hands event, conference or culture summit, and are looking for support with a powerful keynote speech, facilitated team conversations that are the currency for change, or deeper development on leadership mindset and an intentional strategy for the culture you're trying to create, I hope you'll contact us at jasonvbarger.com, jasonvbarger.com. It is my privilege and our honor to partner with great people to provide support in these areas. We want to breathe oxygen into your leaders and throughout your organization so you can set the temperature you want for your culture. We look forward to connecting with you soon. With nearly 30 million people quitting their jobs between April and November in 2021, many leaders, companies, industries, just humans have been asking the question of why. Why is this happening? Why are so many people just up and quitting their jobs? Well, it, of course, is a complex thing. It's not something that's just simple. Nobody has all the answers, and I certainly do not either. But the reality is there's a myriad of reasons why people have just up and quit their jobs. But let's lean on research and studies to help paint a picture, some of the reasons why. Because as you study and you look at the research and what the data is telling us, that there seems to be a psychological shift that the pandemic and the high-stress world events that we've been living in, they are bringing on this kind of psychological shift, this mindset shift from the past, this, the old mindset maybe that older generations or traditionally this kind of idea of living to work, and I'll quote unquote play when I retire. I'm going to work as hard as I can. And then, when I'm secure enough, I'll go retire and do what it is I want to do. That kind of psychological shift is being, switched out for not just the idea of living to work, but maybe more like working to live, and that living life is on a higher value than just the status or the pay or the security that might come with traditional lines of thinking. And so as you look at the data and the research, what employees are voicing is that they want a job that fits into their life, not the other way around. They're not just looking for a job and then they'll build their life around it. They're looking for a life, and then what is the job that will fit it? And so it's an interesting psychological shift that seems to be taking place. I'll cite some other studies that just to bring your mind back to this, but a Gallup study that said that 9 out of 10 employees that were surveyed, 9 out of every 10 say that they would actually take a pay cut right now to work for a more meaningful culture. It's clearly saying that people want meaning. They want purpose. They want to be a part of a culture that listens to them, values them, and they feel like they are contributing to something greater than themselves. So a place where their work honors not just them, for what they can perform, but honors their life and then helps them contribute, which again is a part of that psychological shift. And I believe, by the way, that the best organizations have been doing this for some time, but that this is now becoming more mainstream. According to a Bloomberg business study recently, 66% of all millennials that just quit their jobs, so 66% of the millennials, those are the people that current day would be between 25 and 40, 66% of them that up and quit their jobs towards the end of 2021, they cited mental health reasons. And Generation Z, that's 24 or younger, that percentage was even higher. It was at 81%. So obviously, again, through this research that's telling us and painting this picture of us, the world and the environment around us has been stressful. It's been uncertain. It's been challenging for employees and employers alike. And so this kind of new work-life paradigm seems to be evolving. And the positive side of it is it's causing all of us to ask questions. And so people are asking good questions of themselves. Employees are asking the questions about their own lives. What is it they want for their life? What do they desire? What's their purpose? And where do they want to make their contribution? And companies and the best leaders and organizations and employers are also being forced to ask really good questions that, once again, the best organizations have always been asking. But more and more places are asking the questions about how can we care for our people better? And how do we create cultures that people want to be a part of? So If you're a sports fan at all, or a college sports fan in particular, then this idea over the last couple of years of the transfer portal has become very popular. The transfer portal, of course, is where any player at any time can decide, you know what, I don't want to be a part of this college or university anymore. I'm going to enter the transfer portal and I'm going to go find a better place. I'm going to go find a different college or university that I'll be a part of. If I'm a field hockey player, a hockey player, a soccer player, a football player, a basketball player, I'm going to enter the transfer portal and I'm just going to jump to the next opportunity that I think's better for me. And so this idea of the transfer portal, and there's been all this debate of whether the transfer portal's good or bad and all these different ways. And the reality is, whether or not you think it's good or bad, it's here. And the reality is that it's not just in sports. In companies as well, right now, in this time of the Great Resignation, these people that are leaving, they're leaving jobs, but they're also on the search for where is it that they're going to go next. And so in the midst of this environment, in companies and across industries, culture is your greatest competitive advantage. If people aren't engaged in your culture and what you are doing as an organization, as a team, as a company, then they'll go somewhere else. They may just leave altogether, or they'll go somewhere else. They'll go to a competitor. They'll go somewhere else where they feel like the culture is more meaningful that they want to be a part of. So on this podcast, we're focusing on these three main ways that leaders and companies are doubling down on culture in the midst of this time of the Great Resignation, and what are the things they can control. We can't control so much that's happening in the world, but in terms of our organization and our team, what is it that needs our focus and what is within our control? And so on the last episode, I introduced that maybe the secret sauce to this Great Resignation is the acronym RAD, R-A-D, and it stands for retaining talent, attracting talent, and developing talent. And so today we're focusing on just the R of that. We're giving each of these episodes its own episode because we want to make sure the episodes don't get too long. But we're just focused today on retaining talent, the R. So what do the best leaders and cultures tend to be doing in the area of retaining talent? Here are three at least key things that they're doing in terms of retaining talent. One, they're remembering about going to them. Retaining talent right now, the best leaders, teams, and organizations are going to their people, going to them. Many places have been surprised. Many leaders, many teams, many companies in the midst of the Great Resignation have been caught off guard, have been surprised, by their people leaving. And when their people have come to them and said, okay, I'm leaving, they've been surprised by that. But the reason why they're surprised is that many leaders, teams, and organizations, we can't control everything, but it is within our control to make sure that we are going to our people, not waiting for them to come to us, but going to them directly to make sure that we have discussions or check-ins with them. And so many of these places that have become surprised by their people leaving, then they look back at it and they say, well, we never went to them. We never brought them in to check in with them and have a discussion about how they're feeling and where they are in the midst of all of this that they've been experiencing over the last couple of years with the pandemic and everything related to the Great Resignation. So we've never checked in on them. So one of the keys to retaining talent is go to them. Don't wait for them to come to you. Go to them. People in the past have assumed that they were fine or were so focused externally that they forgot to prioritize the people that they already have. They were wondering where are they going to attract new people, and they forgot about the people that were already there right in front of them. And so go to them. As you study the research is what the best teams and organizations are doing right now. Again, even in the midst of a time when so much is out of their control, they are saying, all right, how can we be strategic about going and touching base with each of our people? So go to them, set up one-on-one conversations, have team meetings, show them so that everybody within your organizations, they feel and understand that they are a priority and that they are value. And so key number one to retaining talent is making sure right now, go to them. Go to them. The second key is once you go to them is that we need to be willing to listen. The best teams and organizations right now that are navigating all this stuff and all the change oftentimes are being very strategic about how they are listening. And so the best cultures are providing ways to listen to their people so that they can authentically meet the needs of their workforce. They're asking them, how are you feeling? Where are their pain points? Where is their passion? What kind of culture do they want to be a part of? And how do they want to contribute to the culture in the future and experience work? They're asking these questions so that they can take the pulse of their people around them and understand, how are they feeling? Where are they having struggles and obstacles and pain points? Where are they still passionate and on fire and excited? What kind of culture do they want more of? What do they want less of? And how do they want to contribute to the culture and the experience of work into the future? And unless we're listening, then we can't be surprised when people leave and we aren't sure why, because we haven't gone to them and we also haven't been willing to listen to them. So retaining talent begins with going to them and listening to them. And then once we're with them, the third key is we have to be able to communicate a vision for the future. And tied to that vision is a value of their contribution. Communicate the vision for the future and a value of their contribution. So clarity, I'm so big on clarity. I've always has been, but certainly clarity is so important in foggy times. When things are foggy, when things are unclear, uncertain, when there's so much that's happening around us, and just clarity helps cut through that. And so communicating to your people the vision for the future and how their role plays an important role and will be a valuable contribution into the future helps cut through any of that fog or uncertainty. And so the best leaders, teams, and organizations right now, they're able to paint the vision of the proactive game plan that your team or your organization has, even in the midst of all the uncertainty, challenges, and obstacles. And so most rational humans don't expect you to have all the answers to all the world's problems. But every time that you, with clarity, are able to be transparent with your people about the problems you're facing, about the problems you're trying to solve, and then I know all the things that are out of our control, but what is within our control? Here's the game plan that we are putting into motion on how we're committed to moving forward. And every time with clarity, we can communicate that vision and then connect their particular role and how it contributes to that vision. Every time we do that, it brings ease to any of the anxieties that people might be feeling. And so clarity is key. And so as you're thinking about retaining talent, in the beginning of this, of making sure that you're focusing on the people that you already have on your team, in your organization, in-house, then a couple of those keys that, again, I would remind you of is go to them. Make sure that you go, don't wait for them to come to you, but go to them. Make sure that you are strategically planning in times in that one-on-one and the team environment with surveys, with town hall meetings, virtual summits, all of those ways to create opportunities to listen to them about all those important questions about how they're feeling, where their pain points are, their passions, what kind of culture they want to be a part of in the future, and how they hope to contribute and experience work. And then lastly, make sure that you are strategically communicating with them the vision, the game plan for how you're navigating your way through this, and how their role is going to be a key contributor to bringing that vision to life. This episode is focused on a few of those tips for some of the main elements that are within our control as leaders and cultures related to retaining talent. And the best leaders and cultures, we know that the paradigm shift requires all of us to reimagine, to grow, to develop in all three of these areas: retaining talent, attracting talent, and developing talent. So I know on today's episode, we've just been talking about retaining talent, but on the next couple episodes, we're going to talk specifically about attracting talent and developing talent. So for this week, in this episode, I love to give you some questions to ponder for your own journey. How and when could you go to your people to check in on them? How and when are you going to go to your people to check in on them? How could you make time to listen to their perspective, their thoughts, their needs? How could you communicate the vision for the future and the value of their role's contribution more clearly? Every time we're able to check in, to go to them, to check in on somebody, to take time to listen to somebody, and then paint the vision for the future, the game plan for how we're going to move next, and how their role contributes to it, the fog and the anxiety seems to disappear, even if it's just for a moment, until we need to do it again. So breathe in appreciation and gratitude for all that is within your control. Now is a chance for us to positively impact those with us on our teams and on the journey, the people that are already with us, because that gives energy to all. Remember, calibrating our own thermostat starts with our own awareness of how we're feeling and what we're thinking, this emotional intelligence of being able to understand that, and then calibrating our response. What is going to be our response individually, but then also what is our response to that relationship, the social awareness of the people around us. We are the thermostats. Our own internal temperature sets a temperature externally for other people based on our own response and our own behaviors. So I hope you'll keep tuning in. We've got a great season ahead of us to support your vision and our mindset on being an authentic leader in the world and creating compelling cultures. The next episode in this series is going to be a deeper dive into the A in RAD. The A, of course, is about attracting talent and the fact that it's an inside-out job. We got to start from the inside and work out in terms of attracting talent. So remember, the best leaders, teams, and cultures on the planet stimulate progress by recalibrating their thermostats together. Thank you for listening to today's podcast, and I hope the messages and questions stimulate positive change along your path. As always, if these messages resonate with you and add value to your life, I hope you'll help amplify them throughout the world. Please rate, comment, and share on whatever podcast or social media platform you're using, and share this podcast with the people in your life or work who should be part of these conversations. That way, this spirit does, in fact, spread. If these messages or developing leaders and culture would be helpful to you and your organization, please contact us at jasonvbarger.com, jasonvbarger.com. And remember, we are all ambassadors for the culture we want to create in our life and work. We have to own the vision we want to be a part of. The future of leadership is you, is me, is us. Be a thermostat.